hawa wallahi wa to ba dai shi ba pass
What is the other thing that come, let me greet you. Don't behave like that. The president is doing
on the consideration of the first order. And my motion for consideration of the request of Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief for the removal of Mr. Babatunde Irukera as the Chief Executive and Vice Chairman of the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, having been moved and seconded, I now at this time, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, wish to most respectfully call on our dear colleagues for the consideration and approval of the request of Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief. Our colleagues will recall that the executive communication from Mr. President had earlier been read by Mr. President on the floor of this hallowed chamber 3 weeks ago. And the essence of this motion today is to enable us consider this request. So, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, what I have to say in this regard is just for me to emphasize that the decision and request by Mr. President for the removal of Mr. Babatunde Irukera was pursuant to his own desire to further strengthen his administration and ensure that personnel and public office holders are reshuffled from time to time as the case might become necessary in ensuring that round pegs are put in round holes. So, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, once again, I just want to respectfully call on you to consider and approve the request of Mr. President, again, for the removal of Mr. Babatunde Irukera as the Chief Executive and Vice Chairman of the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. And this is in line with the clear provision of the law as contained in Section 8, subsections 1B and 2 of the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission Act of 2018.
Mr. President, who has the right to appoint? If you have the right to appoint, you should also have the right to fire. That's one. That is from a layman's point of view, even though I'm not a layman, because I'm a learned husband. But you are a lawyer, and the leader is also a lawyer. And you've quoted the section because that is like a statutory organization. My concern, or what I wanted to point out, is did you take a look at the law? But ordinarily, just like we screen the ministers here and then confirm, that is what same thing that we did to confirm the appointment of such a statutory position. And also, when the president, for example, decides to fire any minister, he can do that before he even talks to us, because he did that, he brought the name of the nominee for confirmation. What I'm saying is, you need to advise us as the Senate, yourself and the leader, coincidentally lawyers, as to what is the position of the law and what is the interpretation of the section you are quoting. being that is me, the president must have reason for taking such action, since he has the right to appoint and also to fire. I think we don't need to discuss this very long. As I said, the presiding officer as a lawyer and the leader as a lawyer will support. You asked him to do that, and he told us to support. So I support. Based on the fact that he's a lawyer.
As the chief whip said a short while ago, Mr. President has the power to hire, and therefore it goes that he has the power to also fire at any time. But where by statute an approval of this Senate or the National Assembly is required before the president so fires, usually there is a proviso connoting misconduct. I just want clarification from the leader whether the law he's referring to that governs this appointment and the removal by the president, whether the removal is predicated as it is in some legislations on misconduct. Now, if that is so, because as you know, Mr. President and my dear colleagues, before you remove a justice of the Supreme Court, you remove INEC, you remove this, the law says, yes, you can hire and therefore you can fire, yes, but on misconduct. The only caution and clarification I'm seeking from the leader is, if by this law that we are referred to here, there is an imputation on misconduct. Now, if that is so, then this Senate is entitled to know the grounds. This Senate is entitled to know the facts that has led Mr. President to arrive at that conclusion. Because if we don't know about all those overall factual developments, if the law says misconduct, if the law does not say so, Mr. President can hire, Mr. President can fire. So we give the approval to Mr. President to fire. Well, we didn't hire him for the president. But my concern is, Mr. President, if there is an allegation of misconduct, if the law says the president shall remove him on misconduct, and that before doing so, the approval of the Senate or the National Assembly shall be procured, then in that event, this Senate will be entitled to know the totality of facts alleging the misconduct, the proof thereof, and the need for us to accede or not to accede. So I just want the leader of the House to throw more light on the legal situation governing this bill.
Sections, which he is basing his letter on removing the officer in question. I would like to refer us to the FCCPC Act 2018, Section 8(1)(b, that the President refers. Section 8 said, a commissioner may be suspended or removed from office by the President if he, I'll go straight to B, has demonstrated his inability to effectively perform the duties of his office. In the same act, I know that, as Senator Dixon said, there's an area of misconduct, but the President is not basing the removal of this officer on misconduct. He's basing it on B, inability to effectively perform his office. And since the President, it is not the Senate to know whether this person is performing or not. The President who has the authority, we are all expecting the President to perform. The buck stops at his table. So if a person is not performing to the expectation of the person who is harassing the person, I think the President has, I urge the Senate to approve the President's request.
A servant or an unwilling master as far as the law is concerned. But here, the provision is very clear. If the Senate's job is to approve the request of the president, not to investigate the request of the president. And luckily, the section of the law is very clear that the person could and can be removed from his inefficiency to perform his duties. And who measures the efficiency? It is the principal, in this case, Mr. President. So I want to thank all for their contributions. Ours is to either approve the request of the president, or if we have any reason not to, then we can say we do not approve. Then in which case we have to communicate the reasons to the president. As far as all the arguments are concerned, there is no reason for us not to approve the request because it is aimed at strengthening his government and ensuring more efficiency. So I'll put the question. Distinguished colleagues, will the Senate approve the request of Mr. President for the removal of Mr. Babatunde Irukera as the Chief Executive to Vice Chairman of the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission? Those in favor of the removal say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Therefore, Mr. Babatunde Irukera's removal, as requested by Mr. President, is hereby approved. Unfortunately, the bill is like an architectural drawing. Where the architect makes mistake, it lies forever. But if a doctor makes mistake, it is buried under the ground. So we cannot rush it. I want to just draw your attention to just two items I noticed when I was perusing through this. So if you go to page 4, section 13. You don't have a copy? Ask the clerk to give you a copy. Colonel, it was distributed yesterday. Have you got a copy now? No, but I was asking Senator Olare if he has a copy now. Okay. Now, if you go to section 13, sought to be amended, any person who is unlawfully concerned in the storage, custody, movement, carriage, or concealment of dangerous drugs or controlled substances, and who, while so concerned, is armed with any offense, weapon, or is disguised in any way, shall be guilty of an offense under this act and liable for conviction to be sentenced to imprisonment for life. This section, as indicated here, creates a strict liability provision. And this strict liability provision is further confused by the word concerned. How are you concerned? Page 4. So please, just read through it. How are you concerned? So the word concern is subject to numerous interpretations, and definitely may even result in a lot of injustice, because, and then it's also creating a strict liability offense here, where Senator Abiru, you are an accountant, we are talking law. So listen. We just Olamileko, open to that section. Page 4.
Passing a vague law such as this, will amount to, in future, putting those who are not to be punished in a state of punishment. And probably those who are to be punished are left free. So this is very vague, and more work needs to be done on it. We need to do more work on this. So I also told your line that we should study it down and give time for us to study it very well so that we can deal with it the legislative or maybe next week. I also submit.
Yes, Ayo, San.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting as the chair. I think that it's important that we fully appreciate the difference in two things. There's the punitive aspect of the law, which is separate and distinct from the definition of the offense. Now, the word concerned is the one that defines the offense, which I think is the greatest problem, because concern could be anxious, it could be troubled. So it's a bit of, when you talk about criminal liability, it can be a bit tricky as to when you are caught by this, and sort of has a very wide net. I think that removing punishment. Now, the punishment says life imprisonment. That, for me, is debatable to the extent that what exactly does the parliament think is an appropriate punishment. There are other crimes where the punishment is death, and I'm not proposing that. And there are other crimes where the punishment is imprisonment. So I think it's important that we differentiate the two. Let us first talk about the definition of the offense, which I think is the one that is a bit unclear, and which is the one that could visit unnecessary resultant effects on citizens of Nigeria. I do agree with you, Mr. President, sitting as the chair, that it might be important for us to go and take a proper look at this act again to see that the offenses that are properly defined, so that anybody that is caught by it actually knows with clarity what the offense is. I thank you very much.
The senior advocate of Nigeria has spoken. It's the view of everybody. Senator Ekong, you have something to add?
Whenever we are faced with this kind of situation, we should have ample time, do some research, and come up with what will clearly stand the test of time for law and jurisprudence. Yesterday, we were very emphatic about the scourge that drugs has unleashed on this country. Lives have been lost. The future of our youth have been put in serious jeopardy, as it were. And yes, an issue was made earlier that this is a concurrence from the House of Reps. But Mr. Chairman, we are not bound to agree hook, line, and sinker with what comes from the House of Reps. This is, I mean, much as we are co-travelers in the part of lawmaking, we have ample space, we have ample latitude to look at the very dynamics of lawmaking, so that at the end of the day, whatever we come up with can stand the test of time and can fully meet the demands or the dynamics of public inquiry. So I agree that we need time to go back, look at this bill, look at the basics of law and punishment. I mean, I'm one of those who clearly cite the fact that we have to discourage the abuse of drugs in this country, given the damage that that has done. But even more important, we, as an institution, we must always take time to scrutinize whatever we do, so that whatever we come up with will stand the test of time. So I agree that maybe the standing committee, this can be referred to the standing committee, can have a second look, streamline the basics of law and jurisprudence, so that at the end of the day, this very, very important item meets the very dynamics of public inquiry. Thank you.
Yeah, in a car, and a banned substance is found in that car. If nobody owns up, all of you are going to prison, life imprisonment, because of that word, concern. Because you were concerned since you were within the car, the premises of the car. and then it added movement and all that. So I want to agree with the Deputy Senate President and all those who have contributed that we should take time to look at it again and then come up with something, and particularly what the Senior Advocate of Nigeria said. Ayo pointed out that definitions are very key. So definitions are very key. So let's know, so that by the time you engage in any of these acts, you know what offense you are committing, and then you also know what punishment you are going to get. Senator Garba, do you agree with us? But it is, one thing is certain, that we must scrutinize this thing because it's a lifesaver. It involves, it affects the future of Nigeria. Drugs are part of the reasons why we even have insecurity. And drugs, the underlying tone is that even the drug abuse in the country is on the increase. And then we must do everything possible to ensure that we craft the law in a way that will not, that will stand the test of time. Yes, Senator Sadiq, so that we wrap up.
There are still means in which these younger ones or those who engage in taking these drugs also find their easy or get an easy access to this drug in the areas of even the pharmaceutical industries or shops where prescription drugs are being sold as illicit drugs for them to use. I also want to align with Senator Medoki about classification. We should put it more in classification because it's a global practice whereby certain amount, or if you are found with certain grams of drugs, they have punishment in different classification so that we don't give a uniform classification. Some people, you find them with drugs, the purpose of that drug might not be for the illicit abuse. It might be for prescription, but the same drug can also be used for abuse purpose. So I want us to look at this so that when we are dotting the I's and we are crossing the T's, we should also expand our scope, especially in classification for the punishment that will be given to some of these people. Thank you very much.
Manslaughter. So the concerned can both go for voluntary and involuntary. Like a case in the US just of recent, a boy of 14. Okay.
Judges be concerned. Voluntary manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter. But remember what Senator Mustafa said, that in other crimes, that there are classifications of even the, what another senator pointed out in terms of the grammage, the quantity. Some quantities are for export, while some quantities are for self-use, and may even be related to illness. And therefore, ban or not ban, punishments should be segregated. And so the blanket life imprisonment for anything connected with drug is something that is already here. That's why it's important we go back and look at it. But go on what you're saying.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am very happy that you understand what I'm saying, that while reconsidering, that we have to take note of that and then act, or the amendment is informed by the fact that when you find at times somebody who has maybe exported or is exporting about 50 kg of heroin, for example, and then you now give him an option of fine of, say, 1 million naira or 200,000 naira, then he will pay. It's outside. Then he can continue with the business. It is not more than fine. Maybe that is the reason why the drafter of this clause has just put us in mind to make sure that, look, when you are going to jail, you are going to jail. And you will know. Because the punishment has to be severe in a form to deter fully. Because we cannot partially deter. If we partially deter, it means that the barons will be on it and forever. Because when you know that you are caught, you will pay only 100,000 naira, or you pay 250,000 naira. They will have the money in their pocket, waiting for a judge to rule and tell them to go and pay fine. That is the reason. So when we are reconsidering, we have to ensure that even if there's going to be an option of fine, then that fine must be seriously described fine, not meager amount. It should be tied to even the market value of that kind of illicit drug that person has imported or exported. So that's what I want to.
Drug trafficking is actually death sentence. A lot of Nigerians have been killed in places like Malaysia, Thailand, and others. Yes, a lot of Nigerians have been killed. So we cannot make our law in such a way that it allows people to come in and do what they like and flood the country with drugs. That's the truth. So even when we are still, it's just that I don't know how far you want to go, because this is Parliament. For me, I believe that there are certain classifications after you look at the grammages that should actually go for death sentence. We were able to cop a lot of kidnapping in the South region when we insisted that kidnapping should carry death sentence. Kidnapping for ransom, it should carry death sentence. And I signed it. I signed in my state. I signed a bill into law, carrying death sentence, because sometimes they don't just go to kidnap. They kill before they succeed in kidnapping the person. Some time ago, a judge was kidnapped and the orderly was shot dead. So when the person does that, and then you go and give option of fine, the person will go back into kidnapping. Am I right? So we have, this drug thing is so serious that we have to look at it again. And then I commend the House of Representatives for even thinking of these amendments so that they can make it more watertight. But at the same time, we must now, as elders, look at, the classifications. But we must come up with something that would be a deterrent, and at the same time ensure adequate punishment. Senator Mongunu.
Distinguished Senate President, distinguished senators, my name is Mohamed Tahir Monguno. I represent Borno. Very clear and unambiguous, to the extent that the courts, in interpreting the laws, will give that provision their ordinary and literal meaning. But as it is now, the word concern is subject to different interpretation. And as such, the courts cannot give it its ordinary and literal meaning to the extent of carrying a penalty of death penalty without an option of fine. So, Mr. President, I think the clerk of the National Assembly, and in this case, the clerk of the Senate, should strengthen our legal department so that our drafting should be elegant. Elegance of drafting. In the past, I know the legal department, the National Assembly sends them to one institute in London. Even the clerk, in 1992, when I was a member of the House of Reps, was sent to that institute in London for a course on legal drafting. Mr. President, it will interest you to know that the clerk is my mate. We are called to the bar the same year with him. So I know him very well. He was a staff in the legal department when I was a member in the House of Reps in 1992. And I can recall that he was sent to that institute in London for legal. We are together with Senator Oji Uzo Kalu. He was also a member of the House of Reps in 1992. So I think there is a need for us to train the legal department on legislative drafting so that our legislations, our drafting should be elegant and should convey the ordinary and literal meaning of the words that we put in our legislation, especially in matters that concern strict liability like death penalty without option of fine. Thank you.
National, in this case, the House of Rep, we are not obliged to rubber stamp it. I'm happy, Mr. President, that you reminded us of the law we had to pass when we were governors. My observation is that whereas the executive passed those laws to provide for death sentence for kidnappers and armed robbery, etc., when the court uphold and interpret those laws correctly and sentence people to death, it is on record that most governors were unwilling or unable to assent to the judgment so that those involved are sentenced to death. As a consequence, we have so many people today sentenced to death, but they have not been executed because the governors that passed those laws are unable to find the courage to sign death warrant. I had to sign death warrant. I also granted pardon. So the lesson I've learned from this is that the more draconian a law is, the less likely that we'll have the will to enforce it. Mr. President, you also made the point that the prisons are met, we have even changed their name now to correctional homes. The emphasis now is to correct, even though there are some that cannot be corrected. I think the point you have made for me is sufficiently clear that anything that has to do with the possibility of somebody spending all his life in prison or being sentenced to death merit real scrutiny. And we will be helping our brothers and sisters in the House of Rep by doing our own job, looking at it differently. We see in the US, sometimes hard negotiations between the Congress and between the Senate. This can only go to enrich democracy. Neither the House nor the Senate should rubber stamp the decision of any of the chambers, so that the laws that come through this bicameral legislature should have been filtered through, reduce all the impurities, and ensure that what we have passed reflect the will and the expectations of the Nigerian people. So I support what you have said, that let us take this thing back, look at it critically, fix a date, and then we pass it. Or we debate it with a view to passing it. I think you have summarized it, Mr. President. Thank you, sir.
Distinguished Senator.
Talk about inelegant drafting of this bill. Apart from being inelegant, the definition is not all, the definition section is not all encompassing. Whereas heroin, cocaine, cannabis have been defined, LSD is not defined. So what is LSD? So the definition has to be encompassing. So I suggest that legal draftsmen should take a second look at this bill and then make it very, very elegant for us to pass it. That is my submission.
Menace that is going on, especially amongst our youth. And these are some of the genesis of the insecurity that we are seeing all over. Sometimes when you go even to arrest bandits, part of it is the first thing to torment them is when you deny them of drugs. Today, it is now becoming a culture as a vogue for our children in universities to say who takes the biggest drugs or who takes the most expensive drugs. Just last week, I was showing my colleagues a video that I saw, the discovery or the invention of a new drug they call Koros. That one, you take it, you go mad. You are mental completely. And so a lot of them are picked here from Abuja to mental homes. It is very, very sad. As we move on, like my brother comrade, distinguished comrade Oshomole said, I know that from experience, the harder the penalty, the more the attempts to frustrate prosecution. It took me about 3 years to prosecute a drug baron in Jos. I realized that he was the one supplying all drugs all over North Central Zone. By the time we started prosecuting him, we suffered a lot of things, both from the judiciary, from the police, and even from the Drug Law Enforcement Agency. At the end of the day, we finally got him jail. The man is in prison in Jos. But what I also realized was that at the time that he was in jail, that was when he was also producing more drug barrels. We have to be very, very careful.
I am saying this because we are talking about our children. But even the big ones are some strong, I don't want to say politicians, but I said strong individuals, billionaires in our midst. If we don't discourage this kind of thing, as you are fighting from the lower side, what you are leaving, the gap, is those that are above. Because at the time that he did that, we were even afraid the kind of people that were coming to visit the man in prison. So it is very, very timely that we look at it. This is not an opportunity to divide. Let us have the time, like Mr. President said, let us look at this holistically and come back with certain experiences and also definitions. Yes, there was public hearing at the House of Representatives. What were some of the contributions from the House of Representatives so that we can cover some of these loopholes? Because some of those definitions that we're talking about, new methods are coming, new drugs are being introduced that will not come into that kind of definition, that kind of definition, especially for the youth, where they are produced and where they are consumed. As far as I'm concerned, I realize that most of it are produced, sorry to say, around the south, but consumed in the north. Consumed in the north. Yes? Yes, I have evidence. I have my evidence. I will tell you. I will tell you. When I say south, I didn't specify which area. I didn't say Edo. So, Mr. President, you have already said something, and for me, I'm very eager for us to walk away with this law, go and have a thorough examination of it through our research officers, if we are not lawyers, and then come back and take full time to discuss this, because it will protect not only us, but protect our youth and generations to come. I so move. Thank you. I so support, sorry.
I'd already accused you that most of the drugs are produced in the south and consumed in the north. I don't think that is totally correct. I would think that the only thing I know that is produced in the south and consumed in the north is cola nut. Cola nut produced in the south and consumed more in the north. So it's that's the only thing I would know, is that it's produced in the south, consumed in the north, and worshipped in the east. Because there is nothing we do without using the cola nut to talk to our ancestors in the southeast. So we produce it. That's the truth. But not drugs. So find out from that your drug baron where he used to get his supply from, because and then for those big men that visited him in prison, I'm sure they were his customers. And you found a difficulty in prosecuting him. It's everywhere, because they have a lot of money to spend, and so they try to frustrate prosecution. But congratulations that you succeeded at the end to do justice to the good people of Plateau State and Nigeria. I think we've discussed a lot on it, and everybody has agreed that, yes, indeed, we need to go back and really study this and come up with something that will stand the test of time. And if we have to send the clerk back to London. Senator Lalong, please sit down.
To Senator Shomole's fact that governors refused, governors were not willing to sign. The role of civil societies were also there. Because anytime you are going to sign a death warrant, you see human rights organizations everywhere and civil societies. Yes, they were coming with that. I know Mr. President will also experience that. So when we are going to do this,
Senator Shumole also made one observation, Senator Shumole, there was one observation you also made, that today we don't have prisons again in Nigeria, that what we have are correctional centers. So for hard drugs and their barons, should they go to correctional center or should they go to prison? So we may have to find out, we may have to, because if we don't have any prison in Nigeria, then it means that nobody should go to prison. Everybody should go to where you will be corrected. So I think it's something that we must tinker with the act to come up with a suggestion that they need to reintroduce prisons in Nigeria, in addition to correctional centers. So only those for reformation should go to correctional centers, but those hardened criminals who are bent on destroying the society should actually go to prisons. Because if we have only correctional centers, then you have no business bringing life imprisonment. Because the correctional centers are meant for interim measures to correct the person and reduce the person. So you have to think of it again, whether you need to bring back prisons. Because there are some people that really should be in prison for the society to be free. So, Leader of the Senate, in view of the situation, you can just come up with a motion that we go back, tinker with this, and also involve the clerk, who in 1992 was trained in legal drafting.
Well, Mr. President, sitting as chair, distinguished colleagues, may I, by way of making my own contribution, say that it's not in overriding public interest that we proceed with this bill as presently written. But Mr. President, sitting as chair, in saying that we step it down till next week, there's a need for us to take a further step. Otherwise, we'll come back generally to pass comments on this. May I then suggest, sir, that we saddle both the leadership of the Senate Committee on Judiciary and Legal Matters, as well as the Senate Committee on Anti-Narcotics, to take further look into this on behalf of all of us, so that even though every other senator will still be able to comment, at least the leadership of those two committees will lead in the analysis of this bill. Because, Your Excellency, you were able to point out just two provisions, sections 13 and 14, which caught the attention of everyone here, and it has taken us this long to review. I wonder what happens with the consideration of sections 1 to 31, being the entire length of the bill. So if it makes sense, I will move that we saddle the leadership of both the committees on judiciary, legal matters, as well as the Committee on Drugs and Anti-Narcotics to take greater look into this and feed us back on the next legislative day by the time we are taking this bill. I so move, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that we do saddle this bill for concurrence. We should refer the bill to two main committees, the Committee on Judiciary and Legal Matters and the Committee on Narcotics and Drugs and other related offenses, to take a holistic look at this and then come back to us, and the two committees will lead the debate when we are coming to look at the clause-by-clause considerations. By that time, where there was inelegant drafting, they would have corrected most of those places, and then they would have done classifications and then necessary definitions to enable us pass this expeditiously. So those who are in support of the motion, first that we take this back to our various offices and also saddle the two committees on narcotics and legal matters with the responsibility of redefining, classifying most of the provisions herein before presentation next week. Say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So the committees on narcotics and the committee on judiciary will have to sit together and go through this clause by clause and all the provisions for amendment and then bring back to us. And please, if there's anything you think you need to add to make it more stringent in order to curb the current explosion of drug use in Nigeria, please do so. Otherwise, we are destroying the future of this country. Leader of the Senate. August Assembly, do revert to plenary for the chair to report progress. Those who are in support of this say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. We now revert to plenary to report progress.
On this very important bill from the House of Representatives for concurrence, the bill on the control of small arms and light weapons was read on Wednesday, 15 November 2023, for the first time on the floor of this hallowed chamber. This bill simply seeks to provide for the control of small arms and light weapons in Nigeria and the establishment of a center to coordinate and implement activities to combat the proliferation of small arms and light weapons in our country, in line with the United Nations, the African Union, and the ECOWAS Convention and other international instruments and protocols on small arms and light weapons. Mr. President and respected colleagues, this bill went through rigorous legislative process, including public hearing in the House of Representatives, and was passed. I therefore urge you all to consider and support the second reading of this bill. Thank you.
Senator Mohammed Tai.
Eminently qualified to speak about this bill. Mr. President, distinguished senators, this bill is apt and germane not only against the backdrop of the fact that we are only doing the needful on the need to adhere to protocols and treaties that on our own volition, suo motu, assented to be part and parcel of it. And that what this bill seeks to do is to further strengthen what we have already, a treaty that we have already signed into. Apart from that, Mr. President, distinguished senators, we are all aware of the avalanche of small arms and light weapons that is spread across the nooks and crannies of this country that has given non-state actors access to these small arms and light weapons and terrorizing our communities in form of Boko Haram, banditry, kidnapping, and what have you. So when a situation becomes so alarming like that, there is a need to create an agency or a center that will be charged.
Senator, distinguished Senator, I don't need much contribution. It's a concurrence. And so then we'll move on. This is a bill for concurrence.
Of training medical doctors, nurses, and other allied medical professionals. The Federal University was established by the Presidential Fiat during the state working visit of the then President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Mohammed Buhari, to Ebonyi State. This bill, when passed, will provide a legal and institutional framework for the operation of this university. Consequently, Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues, an executive bill to that effect was introduced in the Ninth Assembly, which saw the merit of the bill and passed him by both chambers of the Ninth Assembly, but was not assented to by the President due to time constraint, hence the need for this reintroduction. The objective of the university, Your Excellency, shall include to encourage the advancement of learning and to hold out all persons without distinction of race, creed, sex, or political conviction the opportunity of acquiring higher education in medicine and other related health sciences. It also includes to act as agent and catalyst through training, research, and innovation for the effective economic development of our country. This university, when established, Your Excellency, will help in producing more doctors, nurses, and other allied medical personnel that will fill the gap created by mass exodus of our medical professionals to Europe and other developed countries for a search of better pay. Your Excellency, this university, through its teaching hospital, will end medical tourism outside Nigeria in view of the world-class medical equipment already provided in the university. Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues, I urge you, in view of the aforesaid, to back this bill and give the necessary support. Thank you, Your Excellency, for the audience.
Well, of doctors in Nigeria is 4 doctors to 10,000 patients. I repeat, distinguished colleagues, 4 doctors per 10,000 patients. Unlike what is the standard for United Nations or World Health Organization that recommends 1 doctor for 550 patients. Today in Cuba, as of today, Cuba has a ratio of 1 doctor to only 480 patients. That is the best in the world. In Nigeria today, we have a ratio of 1 nurse to 1,160.
Leader, point of order.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise under Order A sub 3 to move for extension of time.
This bill is very timeless. I visited this hospital, come university. It is of world standard, and I feel that it needs a legal backing. And the people of Ebonyi State should be commended, especially then governor, who was our colleague there, for deeming fit to establish this university to be able to train. So in saying so, I believe that passage of this bill will go a long way, especially when it's read second time, so it can go to public hearing. It will go a long way to help us achieve a milestone towards universal health coverage. I so support. Thank you.
Yes, the successor.
And I'm glad to be part of it. I have to say that passage of this bill will go a long way in bolstering and boosting the quality of the university. For those of us who have been opportune to be there at one point or the other, that University of Health Sciences is epitome of sort. It has all the facilities, the quality facilities necessary for health services. So giving it a passage, like my colleagues have said, will be a boost to the health services of this country. And like one of the points raised by the lead presenter of this bill, it will help in producing more doctors, nurses, and other light medical personnel that will fill the gap that has created the mass exodus of our medical personnel overseas. Equally, it will end the tourism, medical tourism outside this country. because the university, as it stands today, has all the facilities, has all the infrastructure necessary for medical services. I so submit that this bill should be passed. Thank you.
And indeed, all those that contributed during the debate of this bill. And in particular, I most sincerely commend our former colleague, the present Minister of Works, for initiating getting the university established in the first place. He did that, and that is a legacy project, a project that will help the entire country. Because as said by Senator Dr. Tony Nwoye, this university has started already to train Nigerians who are going to be doctors and other health professionals. And this will lead to a kind of the enhancement of our health sector, thereby reducing the money we spend every year in taking our patients overseas for treatment. It will reduce the amount of foreign currency we spend in getting treatment abroad. So it's highly commendable what Senator, now Minister David Umahi did by founding university. We call on other leaders in this country to take a cue from what he did, to emulate what he did. In this regard, let me now put the question that those in favor that this bill be read the second time, please say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Clerk of the Senate. A bill for an act to establish the David Umahi University of Health Sciences and for other matters connected therewith, 2024, second reading taken and passed. The bill is referred to the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TEDFON to report back within 4 weeks. Mr. Chairman, the Leader of the Senate.
Healthcare Law of Federation of Nigeria 2004 to include Anambra State as one of the members of NDDC states. I so move.
You can continue.
Colleagues, this bill seeks to amend 3 sections. This bill seeks to amend Section 2, Section 4, Section 30 of the NDDC Act. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, recall that this bill was read for the first time 21st of November 2023, and Anambra State has been recognized or gazetted as NDDC, as one of the NDDC states, having been contributing to federation accounts vis-a-vis the oil companies in Anambra State, exploring and producing more than 150,000 barrels of oil per day. Mr. President, the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission, RAFMAC, in its 139th plenary held on 2021, July 27th, approved more than 14 oil blocks, as well as gazetted Anambra State as one of the states oil producing in Nigeria. Distinguished colleagues, Mr. President, they didn't stop at that. They went far to communicate to the federal government of Nigeria vis-a-vis Mr. President. And in November 2021, Anambra State started receiving 13% derivation from federal government. Hence, in a letter on their gazette, Anambra State has been adjourned and tabled as oil-producing state in Nigeria. As we are talking today, Anambra State contributes a sizable number in the revenue that is accruable to this country. And the state receives over 800 million or roughly monthly as our percentage, 13% derivation. So this bill seeks to just to formalize that Anambra State will be the 10th state as one of the states in NDDC, Niger Delta Development State, vis-a-vis making it formal for Anambra State to be in NDDC. The section 2 of the act or the amendment we are seeking is seeking to insert Anambra State and to renumber so that after Akwa Ibom, Anambra State will come. Then section 4 is also to insert Anambra State to be the 10th state, while section 30 will be that immediately after Anambra State, Akwa Ibom State, Anambra State will follow. Distinguished colleagues, I want to appeal to you to support this bill to be read second time. Since Anambra State has started receiving 13% derivation from federal government since 2021 November till today. Passing this bill for the second time and going for the committee and also coming back, if this Senate, the National Assembly deem it fit to pass bill, will get a long way to make it, to formalize the end of the journey. Distinguished colleagues, Mr. President, I so move. Thank you.
Abbas.
If Anambra State is enjoying 13% derivation, more than other states that are on the list of the Niger Delta Development Authority, I see no reason why Anambra should be included as one of the states. They are enjoying more than 2 or 3 states on record of 30% derivation. That means they contribute more than some of the states. And if federal government, if Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission have recognized Anambra State as oil-producing state, I call on distinguished colleagues to support this bill to include Anambra as one of the oil-producing states in Nigeria.
Let me give you information. This Development Commission came as a child of circumstance, a child of necessity, as a result of the massive destruction of the Northeast by Boko Haram and other insurgents specifically, and the number of IDPs created and all that. To rebuild that area, Northeast Development Commission was created. Subsequently, we now have banditry in Katsina, where a lot of people are being killed in Katsina and some places in Zamfara. Zamfara is in Northwest. It is not because Zamfara has insecurity or Katsina has insecurity. We now carry Zamfara and Katsina and Kaduna and put in Northeast. The Niger Delta has a geographical location. It's a geographical definition. Just like somebody would say the Bight of Biafra. The Bight of Biafra is on the maritime territory of Nigeria, and it's so defined. We cannot bring Sokoto and put in the Bight of Biafra in the maritime territory. As I speak, investigation has shown that any state that produces oil gets 13%. So Lagos State is getting 13% because in Badagry, Lagos has 2 oil wells. Cumulatively, they produce about 9,000 barrels of crude oil a day. I think they call it either Laje 1 and Laje 2, I remember. But they are all concentrated in Badagry local government. They are getting their 13%. Anambra is getting its 13%. And then we are expecting Kogi to, if they've started production, to also get its 13%. In addition, the National Assembly has also created the host communities, all producing host communities under the PIA, and they are part of it. and a certain percentage is being given to them. But the geographical location of Northeast and the geographical location of Niger Delta makes Niger Delta to include the mangrove swamp forest of Ondo. It makes Niger Delta to involve the swamp forest of Abia. It makes Niger Delta to involve the swamp forest and of Imo River, that is Imo State. And so by the time you look at what we call NDDC, Niger Delta Development Commission, it involves 9 states as a geographical location. So the first thing you will do is that you have to change the word Niger Delta if you want to include Kaduna. Yes, you have to change the word Niger Delta. So it's no longer for Niger Delta. If you want to involve Zamfara in Northeast Development Commission, you have to change the word Northeast Development Commission because Zamfara is in Northwest. If you want to involve Katsina, you have to, I'm just guiding. The decision is that of the Senate. So can I listen to Senator Oshomole?
I am convinced that the whole essence of the NDDC, Niger Delta Development Commission, is different from the Ministry of Niger Delta. And the whole essence of that is to say that those who are responsible for producing oil require special and specific attention. The fact that any state, including Lagos, certainly in this case, Anambra State, to the extent that they are contributing to oil production, and therefore, to that extent, they also suffer the environmental hazard associated with oil production. I think they deserve to be treated just like any other state that is an oil-producing state. The immediate benefit of this is that they will be entitled to a commissioner on the board of Niger Delta Commission. That way, they will benefit from the special development attention that is paid to the fact that those states that are producing oil, there are certain environmental issues associated with oil production. I could go on and on and on, but I believe, with due respect, Mr. President, that without necessarily amending the word Niger Delta, because even that by definition, it can be expanded, it can be made more restrictive, but there's nothing in my view that makes it impossible for us to add Anambra State, or indeed any other state that is oil producing. It's about equity, it's about justice, it's about fairness. I hereby support the motion. I think it has all the merit, and I employ my colleagues to so support. Thank you, Mr. President.
Delta, and we add Kogi to Niger Delta, and we add Lagos to Niger Delta, and I think Bauchi is producing oil now. We add Bauchi to Niger Delta. We add Kogi, we add Lagos. Lagos, I discovered that Lagos has two wells operating in Badagry, and they are producing almost 10,000 barrels a day. So, but they are not part of Niger Delta because you have to look at the history of the formation of Northeast Development Commission and the history of the formation of Niger Delta. So, but if it is the view of the Senate that we add Anambra, I will also suggest that we add Kogi, then we add Bauchi, and we add Lagos and others to NDDC immediately. So yes,
Bayelsa West. Mr. President, let me first of all recognize the point that has been well made, that Anambra is one of the new states joining the league of older states that have been producing oil for over 70 years. And we say they are welcome on board. Now, on this issue of this bill seeking to make Anambra part of the NDDC states, Mr. President, with all due respect to my good friend, who has brought this motion today, I disagree. Because it doesn't align, as Mr. President had guided before, doesn't align with the history behind the establishment of the NDDC by law. Mr. President and my dear colleagues should take their minds back, even before the independence of this country, how the Willings Commission sat 1957 in Lancaster House in London and agreed for the establishment of a special development area for the Niger Delta. The Niger Delta is one of the 9 basins in the world. We are talking of a basin, a Niger Delta basin. And that's how we had this concept of that geographical area, which over time now involves a number of other states, because it's a basin. Like you said, in Ondo State, it's part of it. Abia, Imo, not even the whole of it, but parts of those states. And because parts of those states are part of that area, that basin, those states were considered to be part of the Niger Delta. Even at that time, Mr. President, there were a lot of discussions as to whether the name that should be given for that development should be the existing oil mineral producing areas development bill, OMPADEC. Being an oil producing area qualifies you to belong to the membership of the oil producing states, OMPADEC as it were. That would have been better. That argument was brought. But NDDC came as an executive bill. And the then president, when he was forwarding it, in order to address the challenges that were now coming from the area that is Niger Delta, decided to caption it the Niger Delta Development Commission, instead of the existing OMPADEC. So that was the misnomer which a number of people up till now query with. So, Mr. President, I want to urge my dear colleagues, and in particular the mover of this motion, that we do not have a South-South Development Commission. There's not. Now, this bill seeking to make Anambra a member of the NDDC states will make absolute nonsense of the concept of Niger Delta development. Because it will mean that now that oil has been reported to have been found in Gombe, Gombe State in the northeast will now be said to be a member of the NDDC state. It will not make sense. We may have to look for another way, maybe of going back to establish the Oil Mineral Producing Areas Development Commission. That way, yes, OMPADEC. Yes, we have to go back to OMPADEC. That way, anytime oil is found in commercial quantity, and we pray that every state in this country should be producing oil so that they will see what we have been seeing, and the country will gain more. So we have no problems that oil has been discovered in Anambra or in Gombe or Sokoto or Adamawa. The more, the merrier, so that all can contribute to our national development. But, Mr. President, to stretch it too far, to include Anambra State, Gombe State, Sokoto State, Adamawa, anywhere that oil is found, to be part of a commission meant to address the problems of the Niger Delta Basin will be too much of a stress. So I understand the fact it has been established, which is that they already are benefiting derivation. What the Constitution requires as compensation for places, for states and local communities that produce oil is to get 13% derivation. They are getting it. Any other other thing about the host communities' rights and so on, whoever produces gets it. But to say that this Senate should be invited, that anywhere oil is produced or found should be part of Niger Delta will be too much. So I want to advise that maybe this bill should be stepped down. Maybe it should be stepped down. So that, yes, it's a bill. That's a bill. It's not a motion. It's a bill to amend the NDDC Act. I think that we should step down this for further consultation so that we can look at all these things and possibly examine the possibility of other options, including the oil mineral producing areas development, some that can encompass any, will address this Anambra and any other one in the future. So, but I move that this bill be either withdrawn if the mover so thinks, or we step it down for further consultation. Thank you, sir.
Well-intentioned the bill is. We cannot take Cameroon or Congo and put in ECOWAS, Economic Community of West African States. It's a geographical location. It's a geographical location. I just came back from Namibia. Namibia is part of SADC. SADC. They are not part of ECOWAS. So if you are not part of Northeast, you are not part of Northeast. But if you want to amend the bill and call it Northeast/Northwest Development Commission, that will now encompass Zamfara State. That will now include Sokoto State. That will include Katsina. But so long as it is called Northeast Development Commission, to go and bring Zamfara and bring Katsina means that we are now changing the geographical location called Northeast, irrespective of the history of how it came about. But I think that the former OMPADEC, Oil Mineral Development Producing Commission, is something that may be considered so that it will even include other solid minerals, not just crude oil. It's just oil mineral producing, and solid, you include solid minerals. You include solid minerals. Because as we speak now, with all prospecting, we are even thinking we are likely to discover oil at in Kano. No, it's true. No, Lake Chad region, Lake Chad Basin, we are going to discover. So you cannot come and put Lake Chad Basin as part of Niger Delta. Lake Chad River Basin Authority. So if you say, if you discover oil in Lake Chad, then you now bring Kano and Borno and put inside Niger Delta. It simply means that we are bereft of ideas of how to accommodate. Already they are getting 13%, and by PIA, they are members of the host communities, which they are also getting allocation from. So, but this one of Niger Delta, NDDC, I know that there are many considerations for NDDC. For me, as we are considering measures for certain commissions, we can also even consider the possibility of segregating some of these things and then making sure that areas that need to come together come together. But Kogi has oil now, Anambra has oil, then Lagos has oil, Gombe now has oil. Are we going to bring Lagos, Gombe, and Kogi under Ankano and Ogun? Even Ebonyi has oil. Ebonyi has palm oil. Are we going to bring and Bauchi? Yes, Bauchi. Thank you, Senator Shehu Boba. Bauchi has oil. So are we going to bring all of them under Niger Delta? It's a geographical location. So I don't. How are you going to rule on this? Asukwa, say something.
If we should be as objective as possible. And with that, I'd like to draw our attention to the actual bill, the act actually, that established the NDDC. Mr. President, if you permit me, I'll read the long title of that act. An act to provide for the repeal of the Oil Mineral Producing Areas Commission's Decree 1998, and among other things, establish a new commission with a reorganized management and administrative structure for more effectiveness, and for the use of the sums received from the allocation of the Federation account for tackling ecological problems which arise from the exploration of oil minerals in the Niger Delta area and for connected purposes. I repeat, in the Niger Delta area. I think this long title speaks for itself.
Please read that section of the bill. Use your microphone. Please listen to you.
Mr. President, I repeat, an act to provide for the repeal of the Oil Mineral Producing Areas Commission's Decree 1998, and among other things, establish a new commission with a reorganized management and administrative structure for more effectiveness and for the use of the sums received from the allocation of the Federation account for tackling ecological problems which arise from the exploration of oil minerals in the Niger Delta area and for connected purposes.
Okay, so what you are saying is that we should wait until an
issue that is currently before us. But Mr. President, sir, I want to support the position of my brother, the former governor of Bayelsa State, that this bill be stepped down for further legislative action. I quite agree. But, sir, while saying that, I want to say, from what was just read out by Senator Ekpeyon, that states that, and it's just to give a further assurance that the Niger Delta Development Commission is meant for only the Niger Deltas. But what he's saying, we can also create a commission for the southeast, for the northwest, for the northeast and southwest, that are not central, that are all producing states. We just have the same commission. But, sir, I want to say this, so that we don't make nonsense of this commission. The UNPADEC that was initially repealed to give back to this NDDC, we have to bring it back. We have to bring it back so that all the oil-producing states can be recognized, and all of this can be in one document. So that any area, because the reason why NDDC was set up ab initio was to take care of environmental challenges that emanate as a result of exploration of the oil. And definitely all the oil-producing states that have been identified also will still go through the same thing. So to accommodate everybody, I think it's high time that maybe we set up a committee within the Senate to look at it, so that with the view of bringing back the UNPADEC to take care of all the oil-producing states that we have in Nigeria. As we are, I'm from Ogun State. We have oil in the Tongeji Island, yet to be explored. So we are a reservoir for the nation. By the time there is no more oil in Bayelsa, in Akwa Ibom, in every other state, Ogun State oil will just start exploration so that we can sustain that's the situation. So I want to suggest that we step down this bill for further legislative action. I so submit, Mr. President.
A lot of arguments have been profiled for and against this bill. Slight historical background had also been given to the formation of certain commissions, such as the UNPADEC, such as the defunct UNPADEC, such as the Niger Delta Development Commission, such as the Northeast Development Commission, etc. The chambers recognizes the need for most of the zones to have additional development outside what their governors are doing. And at the moment, I know that we are at the verge of passing the Southwest Development Commission, and that Southeast Development Commission has already been passed. Southeast Development Commission have been passed. And we have also tried to explain that the word Niger Delta is limiting. That is why, even though Lagos is getting its derivation, it is not part of Niger Delta Development Commission. Even though Anambra is getting its derivation, 13%, it is not part of Niger Delta. And I think Kogi is about to produce or producing, and so it's getting its 13% derivation. And it's also a member of the host community, according to the PIA. Thank you. Not member of Niger Delta. Okay, so in other words, Senator Issa Jibrin is saying that unless we expand the word Niger Delta to include any state in Nigeria found with oil, whether it is Sokoto, whether it is Kano, we should call that state Niger Delta. We have a responsibility as lawmakers. We have a responsibility to guide and to be able to, so that we don't make a mockery of ourselves. I would like to ask distinguished Senator Woye whether, one, would he like to withdraw the bill for further consultations, or will he want us to put the question? Or will he want to step it down for further consultations in view of what other states are saying? So, distinguished Senator Tony Woye, please, will you want to step it down for further consultations, or do you want us to?
Thank colleagues for this honor, but I want to give a very important information before I answer, sir. Kogi State is not receiving 30% derivation as of today.
The man from Kogi said they are receiving.
Wait.
Senator Issa Jibrin, use your mic. So if you are producing, you have to receive.
It's on record, sir, that Anambra State is receiving 13% derivation since 2021 November. And as of today, Kogi State is not receiving a dime from federal government. So far,
can I see the record that mentioned that Kogi is not receiving anything? What you showed me was that Anambra has been getting 13% from 2021. I also inform you that as Minister of Niger Delta, the rating is 13% from 2 oil wells in Badagry, and so, but is not member of Niger Delta area. So,
colleague and my distinguished brother.
It's not the question. The question is not about Kogi. The question is not about Lagos. The question is not about Gombe. Can Kogi produce oil and not receive the 13%?
Give you a copy until, wait, allow me, sir. With due respect, sir. I want to correct an impression, sir, on the issue of boundary.
That letter you have is addressed to you, based on Anambra, not on Kogi. Let the senator from Kogi also write, like you wrote. You are not hearing what I'm saying, Tony. You wrote to the commission percent to Anambra, and they responded yes, that since 2021, they are paying 13% to Anambra on the oil produced in Anambra. That's what you said. So why are you concerned about Kogi? Because Kogi is not in issue.
With due respect, Mr. Moye, I want you to limit yourself to your presentation and to your state. What happens in Kogi State is entirely it's not your business. I am telling you that information getting to me shows that Kogi has been receiving. If that information, if that information is wrong, if that information is wrong, I will get back to Kogi and get the correct information. But that is not what we are saying now. That is not what we are saying. Nobody is misinforming anybody. Okay? Limit yourself yourself to your bill and defend it. Okay? Yet, what I am saying is this. You don't, that.
Okay. Well, the distinguished colleagues, I don't think making has a lot of processes. After this, it will still go to the House of Representatives, it will still go to the presidency and all that. And I would like us to also do justice to other states that are receiving their 13% derivation. I'm aware that Lagos has since been producing oil, both offshore and onshore, but the onshore oil gets 13%, but the offshore is beyond 200 meters isobath required by law, and so they couldn't get 13% on that. So, however, yes, Wasu, I can hear you. The Niger Delta is a geographical expression encompassing the creeks and areas and states that are part of the Niger Delta region. I don't think it will be correct for us because Kogi is producing oil or Zamfara produces oil tomorrow. Bauchi, we have already found oil. Then we put all of them under Niger Delta. I think we will need a more holistic approach to the law. Even it might mean changing the long title of the act and then trying to also mention those states, because as at now, the law that we have mentions the states that make up Niger Delta inside the act in section 4. So if we want to add another state, we must give reason why that state is Niger Delta. It is not just because it produces oil. But the question I want to put to distinguished Senator Tony Way now is, do you want us to step this down for further consultations, or do you want us to put the question?
I feel that I will leave at the discretion of the Senate because of the fact that it's not only based on the fact that oil is found in Gombe and other areas. These 90% of these oil wells are located between Doni and the Obaru local government. That place, check the map of Niger Delta. The Obaru people of Anambra State, they speak the same dialect with the Doni people. So by extension, despite the fact that you're in Anambra State, they share almost everything with Niger Delta people. And that is where these oil wells are located. That is where these oil exploration activities are being done.
So in other words, distinguished, it will be for them to explain to us if Anambra State is part of Niger Delta. It's not for us as a Senate to go into geography. It will be good for the National Boundary Commission to explain it to us. But because I don't want us to be dragged into an issue that is so simple, if you were not getting your 13% derivation, that would have been a different thing. But since you are getting that, and also, you are also a member of the PIA, that is the host communities, as set up by the Act of Parliament today, and therefore you are also gaining. Those communities are also gaining from the host communities funds. I don't think we should be in a hurry to redefine Niger Delta to include Anambra, Gombe, and all that, but be that as it may, let us put the question. Distinguished colleagues, those who are in support of the argument that this bill be now read a second time, to go for second reading, say aye. Those against say nay. The nays have it. Leader of the Senate.
President, considering
to urgently ensure the functionality of dedicated emergency numbers for police, ambulance, and fire service emergencies to enhance swift response to security and public safety incidents. And lastly, urge the police to dedicate a 3-digit number, emergency number, for effective emergency responses. I so move, Mr. President.
The prayers being sought by Senator Ned Nwoko will help in in fortifying the Federal Capital Territory. They are necessary. That is even why I'm here till at this time, to make sure that I support his prayers for us to be safe and for everything, because it's different. I was going to even say that if I had the service chiefs there, but the prayers that he's seeking is very, very fundamental, germane, and can only lead to security of life and properties in this FCT and beyond. Thank you very much.
So you second?
Support.
The Senate President,
through the recommendations, be able to find out what happened and take appropriate steps. Well, I did that before. It's okay.
So the whereabouts of the other abductees are not known. Their whereabouts are still not known.
The President, that's what
to invite maybe the FCT Commissioner of Police to brief us in closed session about this particular investigation, because it will be good for us to know the details and see how we can also add more solutions. So do we invite the Minister of FCT and the FCT Commissioner of Police to come on this particular incident where a legislative assistant of a senator has been murdered? And so maybe, so let's look at the prayers so that we can include, because I would like to know more details about the clerk. If the Senate adopts the suggestion to invite the FCT minister to the Committee on National Security, Police Affairs, or to meet the Senate in closed session, that they should come and meet the Senate in closed session on this matter. Then from there, we can get more details on what has happened. So let's look at it's a very tragic incident. Let's look at the prayers. Galadima kidnap incident response and need to urgently enhance security measures in the FCT. The prayers. Observe 1 minute silence in honor of those killed due to the cruelty of the bandits that kidnapped many people, including the legitimate aides of our distinguished brother, Ned Woko, at Galadima district of Abuja. Those in support of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2. Urge the Inspector General of Police to see to the installation of CCTV cameras in strategic locations within and around Abuja, the highways, and other major capital cities to bolster surveillance and detect criminal activities. Those in support of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3. Call on the Inspector General of Police to urgently increase security patrols and surveillance within Abuja and across the nation to proactively combat and prevent further kidnappings. Those in support of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 4. Mandate the committees on defense and police affairs to recommend robust strategies to prevent future kidnappings within the FCT. Those in support of prayer 4 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 5. Call for the recruitment of more police personnel to bolster security forces' capacity to combat kidnappings and other criminal activities effectively. Those in support of prayer 5 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 6. Urge the provision of adequate mobility resources for the police to enhance their ability to respond swiftly to security threats and conduct patrols effectively. Those who support prayer 6 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 7, call on the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, to urgently ensure the functionality of dedicated emergency numbers for the police, for the ambulance services and fire services, and other emergencies to enhance swift response to security and public safety incidents. Those in support of prayer 7 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 8, urge the police to dedicate a 3-digit emergency number for effective emergency response. I think that's the same thing as the other prayer, but those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against say the nays have it. Now, is anybody that would like to have additional prayer? Yes, Senator Sam.
I think this is where to do that. But beyond that, sir, as I earlier said, you know, we are too quick to tongue lash.
The distinguished Senator, I encourage the amendment. Additional prayer has been made that we, in view of this tragic incident, that we invite the Minister of FCT and the Commissioner of Police in charge of FCT to meet the Senate in closed session to discuss on the issue of the security of the FCT. And the prayer has been seconded. Those in support of this additional prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So clerk of the Senate, you will invite the FCT Minister and the Commissioner of Police FCT to meet with the Senate in closed session to discuss the security of the FCT. Distinguished colleagues, may we now rise for a minute silence in honor of those brutally killed. May the souls of the Galadima kidnapped victims rest in perfect peace.
Come